Hi, you're watching True Horror, and today we have the story of the exorcism of Annalise Mitchell, a true horror story. Imagine being just 23 years old. You're young. You have your entire life ahead of you. And then one night, you hear something in your room. Something you cannot explain. At first, you think you're imagining it, but then it happens again and again, until eventually you become convinced that something is inside of you. Something evil. Something that wants you dead. This is the story of Annalise Mitchell, a young woman from Germany whose family believed she had been possessed by demons, and whose death would become one of the most disturbing exorcism cases in modern history. And the most frightening part, almost everything you're about to hear actually happened. Annalise Mitchell was born in 1952 in Bavaria, West Germany. She was raised in a deeply religious Catholic family. By all accounts, Annalise wasn't some mysterious figure living in an isolated castle. She was a normal young woman. She went to school, she made friends, she even attended university. But when she was a teenager, something began to change. Annalise began experiencing frightening episodes. She suffered from seizures and other disturbing symptoms. In 1969, when she was around 16 years old, she experienced a particularly severe episode and was eventually diagnosed with epilepsy. The doctors tried to treat her, but the problem simply didn't disappear. As the years passed, Annalise began reporting experiences that terrified her. She claims to hear voices. She said she saw strange figures. She believed she was being tormented by supernatural forces. And eventually, her family began to believe that the medicine just wasn't enough. Annalise became increasingly religious. She believed that something evil was targeting her. Her behavior became more extreme, and according to accounts of the case, she began displaying behavior her family interpreted as supernatural. She would scream, she would become aggressive, she would reportedly destroy objects of religious things, and sometimes she behaved in ways that frightened everyone around her. Her parents became convinced that her daughter wasn't simply just sick. They believed she was possessed, so they turned to the Catholic Church. But there was a problem. The church didn't immediately agree with them. Priests initially believed that Annalise's condition could have medical explanations. Eventually, however, a priest named Ernest Alt became involved, and in 1975 permission was eventually granted for an exorcism. What followed would continue for approximately 11 months. The priests began performing the traditional Catholic rite of the exorcism. The rituals could sometimes last for hours, again and again, over and over. Annalise was subjected to prayers intended to drive out whatever the priests believed was possessing her. According to the accounts from the case, she sometimes claimed that multiple demons were speaking through her. Names associated with the alleged voices, including figures such as Lucifer, Judas Iscariot, Cain, and Nero, even Adolf Hitler. Whether these voices were supernatural or the result of a severe illness has remained a matter of debate, but there was no debate about one thing: Annalise was getting worse and worse. As the exorcisms continued, Annalise began eating less and less. Eventually, she refused food almost completely. Her body became dangerously weak, but the rituals continued. Over the course of approximately 67 exorcism sessions were performed, her physical condition deteriorated dramatically. She became severely malnourished, and yet the people around her continued to believe that they were fighting something evil. The tragedy was that everyone involved believed they were trying to save her. Her parents believed they were trying to save their daughter. The priests believed they were fighting demons, and Annalise herself believed she was trapped in a battle against evil. But the battle was destroying her. July 1st, 1976. Annalise Mitchell was 23 years old. She was extremely weak. She had become dangerously underweight, and she had suffered from months of physical and psychological deterioration. That day, she passed away. The official cause was attributed to severe malnutrition and dehydration. She weighed only around 31 kilograms. That's roughly 68 pounds. She had essentially starved to death. And here's where the story becomes even more disturbing because the exorcism hadn't saved her. It had become part of the reason she was dead. After Annaliese's death, authorities investigated. Her parents and the two priests involved in the exorcism were eventually prosecuted. The case became known as one of the most controversial trials surrounding exorcisms in modern Germany. The defense argued that the defendants genuinely believed they were helping Annalise, but prosecutors argued that they had failed to provide the medical care necessary to keep her alive. In 1978, the parents and priests were convicted of negligent homicide and received suspended sentences. The case shocked Germany, and it forced the people to confront an uncomfortable question: what happens when religious beliefs become stronger than medical reality? To this day, people disagree about what happened to Annalise Mitchell. Some believers insist that she was really possessed. Others argue her symptoms can be explained through epilepsy, severe psychiatric illness, or a combination of medical and psychological conditions. Modern medicine does not recognize demonic possession as a medical diagnosis, and there is no scientific evidence proving that Annalise was possessed by demons. But there is something we know for certain. She was suffering. She needed help, and she died at only 23 years old. Maybe Annalise Mitchell was possessed. Maybe she wasn't. Maybe the voices in her head were demons. Or maybe they were symptoms of an illness that nobody around her fully understood. But imagine being 23 years old, terrified, confused, and surrounded by people who believe something evil has taken control of you. Imagine being told that the only way to save yourself is to fight something nobody else can see. And then imagine the fight slowly taking everything from you. Annalise Mitchell died believing she was fighting evil. Her family believed that they were saving her. The priests believed they were freeing her. And in the end, nobody could save her. Her grave still exists today, and decades later, people continue to visit it. But the question surrounding Annalise Mitchell has never completely disappeared. Was she really possessed, or was everybody simply watching a very sick young woman die while believing they were fighting a demon? You decide.